What's up, notJust developers? In today's video, we're gonna learn how to create authentication screen in React Native. Today, in this video, we're gonna cover how to create the UI, the user interface of, first of all, the sign-in screen with the username, password, the buttons, all the social sign-in buttons like Facebook, Google, and Apple, and also the sign-up screen, which is very important in order to create your account. By the way, this design was provided by Sandeep Kasundra on Dribble, so check his work out to see more about that. As well, besides these screens, we're also going to cover other important screens authentication flow, such as confirming your email by providing a confirmation code here. Also, forgetting password and requesting code on your email, then resetting your password, creating a new password in this form. So we're gonna cover all these screens that are necessary in an authentication flow in React Native. If you're new on this channel, hi, my name is Vadim and welcome here. On this channel, we're learning about React Native mobile development and JavaScript technologies. If you enjoy what you're seeing, subscribe to my channel not to miss any future videos because we have a lot of tutorials planned for the near future. But without further ado, let's jump into our project of today. If you want to follow along this tutorial, download the asset bundle from assets.notjust.dev/authentication, and there you'll find this PDF presentation, images, icons, and other materials that you will need throughout this tutorial. And with that being said, let's get started. Alright, so the first step is to initialize our new project, to open it in our editor of choice, and to start the project to see it on our emulator. So let's get started with this step. First of all, I'm gonna open Windows terminal, or you can open any terminal of your choice on your machine if you're on Linux, Mac OS, or any other system. Yeah, here I'm gonna open the folder of my projects, and to initialize the React Native project, we're gonna write npx React Native init, and the name of the project is gonna be authentication. After the project has been successfully created, we can close this terminal and open our project in our editor of choice. In my case, this is Visual Studio. So let's select the folder. Before getting into details of all the files and so on, let's open a terminal in Visual Studio Code. And from here, let's run our development server by doing npm start. This has started the development server. Now we want to run our application on emulator. So let's open a new terminal by pressing on this plus sign. And from the new terminal, I'm gonna write npm run Android. And this will run our application on our Android emulator. You can also run it on iOS device if you have a Mac OS system and an iOS simulator. So yeah, it will work on both Android and iOS. So here we have our first React Native application on our device. It runs as we expect. If you see this screen, then so far everything is okay. So let's open our app.js file because this is our the file that is the entry point in our application. So right now, here we have a lot of things going on. So what I will do is to try to clean these things out, to have a clean starting point in order not to be confusing for anyone. So section, I'm gonna delete this component from here. From application, I'm gonna delete everything from the safe area view, and I'm gonna leave only this safe area view. Here I can write a simple text like hello world. And yeah, let's delete also the background style, dark mode and stuff like that, not to get confused. And for the safe area view, I'm gonna add styles.root for our root. And inside styles, we can also delete everything and add a simple root with a flex 1. What else we can remove? We can remove the unnecessary imports from here, like this one, and the type node, because we are not using TypeScript, and we can remove it from there and remove this part from here. So our application is gonna be a simple functional component. Apparently we don't need even colors. So yeah, now we have a very clean app.js from where we can start working. So what I want to do next is to set up our folder structure that we're going to use throughout this video. So I'm going to create a folder called src that will keep all our source code. In the src, we are going to have a folder called screens that will contain all the screens that we have, and also a folder called, not inside screens, but inside src, we're going to have components. These are two very common folders for the screens and the reusable components that we're going to have. Inside the screens, let's start by creating a new screen called, I don't know, sign in screen. Let's create the sign in screen file here, .js. Let's generate a simple component, a sign in screen that is gonna display sign in screen at the moment. Also, let's create a helper file here called index.js that is going to help us easier import our sign-in screen without duplicating the folder name and the file name. So in our index, we simply say export default from this directory sign-in screen. And by doing that, we can go back in our app.js and we can simply import it like import sign in screen from source screens sign in screen. And now instead of a hello world text, we can render our sign in screen. And the text should change here on our device to sign in screen. Perfect. All right, so this step is done. We initialize the React Native projects. We have cleaned it, prepared it for the next steps, and we have run it on our device. The next step is to start designing the user interface of our sign-in screen. But first of all, let's have a look at what it contains. So first of all, from the top to bottom, we see the logo here that takes around probably 1/3 or 1/4 of the screen. Then we have the username and password inputs, which are custom inputs with custom styles. After which we have the sign in button, the forgot password button, which is a link button, it doesn't have a background, and the social sign in buttons like Facebook, Google, and lastly a link that will take us to the sign up page. So with that in mind, let's start designing this screen, and let's also split it in different smaller components that we can reuse, such as the custom input component and custom button component. All right, so let's get started. Yeah, we can close our app.js, index.js, and sign in screen. Yeah, at the moment we can focus on this one. So what I will want to do is to start with rendering the logo on top of a page. For our assets that we want to bundle inside our application, we're going to create a new folder inside our root folder of our project. Let's do it not inside source, but inside the root. No, it still wants like this. So the folder is going to be called assets, and we can add a new folder there, images, where we will keep all the images. And here let's paste in any logo You can also find the notJust development logo in the assets that you have downloaded. I'm gonna bring it here. All right, we have it. So now let's go back to our sign-in screen. Let's import the image component. Let's import our logo, assets, images, and there is logo 1.png. Make sure to add also the extension of the logo. Okay, so now we can use the image component and pass in the source, our logo. Let's save. We're gonna also add some styles because we see how it is displayed. So style equal styles.logo. And also let's define our styles down below. For that, we're gonna need to import style sheet from React Native. And style sheet.create. Here we're gonna create the styles. So first of all, for our logo, we can simply set hard-coded width and height. And yeah, we see it displayed here. Now to make sure that our whole logo is visible in the container that we specified here, we're gonna say that the resize mode is contain. Save. And now we see that the whole logo fits inside this width and height. But in order to make sure that our logo is not has a hard-coded width, we are gonna say that the width is 70% of the screen. 70% of the screen. And this will make sure that it displays almost the same on any device size. So let me try to reload. Like this. So yeah, let's also, while we're here, add some styles to our root here in order to align items in the middle. So align items center to make sure that our logo is in the middle. Styles here. And we can also add some padding to this root in order to make sure to have some spacing here on the top. Yep, now it looks better. So with the width, one more thing that I want to do is to set a maximum width, because if we are looking on this sign-in screen on a big screen, like on an iPad or on web, then it's not gonna look very good if it's gonna take 70% of the whole screen. So you can set up max width to be somewhere like 500 pixels or 300 pixels. It depends on your design choices. For the height, we're gonna get the height of a screen using the use dimensions hook that we can get from React Native. Use Windows dimensions, and we can get the height from use window dimensions. And with that being said, we can now add one more style here that will contain the height of our image, which is gonna be around the height of our screen multiplied by 0.3. That means that it's going to be 30% of our screen, because that's what we saw here. It's around 30%. And here in our styles, instead of writing height, because we specified here, we can specify the max height as well. So the max height we can say as well, like 200 pixels, 300 pixels, depending on your design choice. Let's save right now and let's refresh our project here. And now our logo is displayed well on this device and is going to be responsive to different device sizes. Okay, so moving on, the next step in our project here is the inputs for the username and the password. I'm going to start right away by defining a custom component for our input by creating a new folder here, custom input, because we will reuse it for multiple places in our application, so it's better to have it here like custom input.js. Do React Native functional export, custom input, custom input. I'm gonna come back to define it here, but first of all, let's define the project structure here. From custom input, and back in our sign-in screen, we can import our custom input from components custom input, and let's render it here, custom input. Will we see it on the screen? Yeah, we see the text custom input on the screen, which is good. We can go to custom input here and start developing our custom input. So for the input, we're gonna definitely need the text input to be able to get the input from the user. Let's delete this text and let's define the text input that we have. First of all, in order to see it, I'm gonna add a placeholder. And by doing that, yeah, I see the placeholder here. I can start writing. All right, so let's start styling it. So for that, I'm gonna import the style sheet from React Native, and let's define the styles here. Styles, style sheet dot create. So we're gonna have the container style and also the input style. We're gonna give the container style to our view and our input style to our text input. Okay, so what do we have here? So the background of our input is gonna be white, but the background of our page should be kind of a gray. So for that, let's go in our sign-in screen, and for the root, let's add a background. Not in the sign-in screen, let's add this background color to the whole application. So yeah, that's gonna be better. So in our app.js, for our root, I'm gonna add background color F9, FB, FC. Save. And now if I go into custom input, I can say that the background color of our input should be white. Yeah, now it's better. So for the width, let's specify that it's 100% of a parent component, like this. And it has also some border and some border radius. So for the border, I'm gonna specify the border color E8, 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 which is a very light gray. A border width of 1. Like this. And to make the corners round, I'm gonna specify border radius 5. Yep, now it looks better. Now with some spacing, I would like to give some more space for this text inside here, not to start from the beginning. So let's add padding, but only horizontal, because vertically we have enough padding there. 10. And when we're gonna have multiple custom inputs, for example, custom input, they're gonna be displayed one on top of each other. So to fix that, let's add also some margin vertical, 10, to have some spacing around them vertically, or even 5 probably is gonna be okay. All right, so now with the styles, I think we are good. Now let's implement the functionality of our custom input to be able to control it from outside. And in order to be able to control it from outside, we're not gonna keep the state, the value of our text input in this component. However, we are gonna receive a value and the setter, a function that we will call whenever we want to update the value, we're gonna receive it through props. So we're gonna receive value and set value through props. The value we are gonna set to the value of our text input, value equal value. The set value, we're gonna use it whenever the text changes in the text input. So one change text, we're gonna call the set value that will update the value with a newly updated text. And also let's receive a placeholder through props to be able to specify it whenever we are using it. Placeholder like this. Okay, so let's go back here and let's start with the first custom input. It's gonna have a placeholder username. For the value and the set value, we are gonna need state to keep track of the username. So let's import the useState hook from React, useState, and let's define on top of our component, let's define our username set username state. Initially it's gonna be an empty string, and the same we're gonna do for the password. Password. Set password. Okay, so for the first custom input, we're gonna say that the value property of the custom input is our username, and the setter, set value, is our set username. So by doing that, we send this value on the setter down to our custom input, which then sends it to the actual text input. And let's do the same for our password. Password, value, password, and the set value is gonna be set password, like this. Save, and yeah, now we can update our password, the username and the password. As you can see, the password here is visible, and in order to make it hidden, there is a property that we can send to the text input, which is called secure text entry, and this is specifically for password. And if we set secure text entry to true, we see that our digits are hidden. So let's also receive this secure text entry through props in order to be able to adjust it from outside. Set here secure text entry with a secure text entry that we receive here, and back in our custom input we can say secure text entry equal true for password, and now our password is going to display as password, but username by default as the username. Whenever you have a property event true, you can send only the property and without the true, and it's the same. So looks a bit cleaner. All right, so that's it with our custom inputs. We're gonna have to adjust them a bit more later. For example, adding the icons and so on, but that's gonna be probably at the end of the video, because right now we still have a lot of things to do, for example with the custom buttons. So let's actually start working at our custom buttons, and I'm gonna start with the sign in button because it's it's quite straightforward what we have to do. It's like a view with a background color with some round corners and a text in the middle. Pretty simple. So let's create a new component in our components folder. It's gonna be called custom button. Let's define here, I'm gonna copy the index here, and it's gonna come not from custom input but custom button. So let's create our custom button here. .js and React Native functional export custom button. Okay, like this. And let's go back in our screens sign in screen. Let's import the custom button. From components custom button, perfect. And let's render it after our inputs. Custom button. So we see the button here, perfect. Let's start styling it. So first of all, let's add here style sheet, define the styles, .create, and let's add two styles, the container style and the text style. Let's also make sure to send these styles to our view styles.container and to our text inside styles.text. So our container will first of all have a background color 3B71F3. This is the blue that we see there. Yeah, and we see it right away on the screen. So now that we have a background color, let's play with the sizes. So the width of our button is going to be 100% of a parent view, like this. Also, to make sure that it displays properly, let's add some padding. So the padding 15 will make sure to add some spaces like this. And again, to make sure that it has some margins from the other containers, we can say margin vertical 5. Okay, so in order to align the text in the center, let's do align items center. And to make the borders round, I'm gonna do border radius 5. And with that said, the container, I think looks quite good. The last step is for the text to say that the font weight is gonna be bold and the color of the font is gonna be white. Perfect. So now we have the styles of our button. Let's make it functional. So in order to be able to register on press events of the user, we're gonna have to import a component called pressable that gives us the ability to register these events. So our top view is going to be replaced by this pressable, which is similar to a view. It contains styles, so nothing from our styles will change. But besides styles, we can also pass an onPress event here. So what should happen when the button is pressed? From inside custom button, we don't know what should happen because it should be reusable for different scenarios. And for that reason, we're going to receive it through props, the onPress event. So onPress is onPress. The same things with the text of a button. Let's receive it through props as text. And with that to onPress and text, we have this reusable button that we can go back here in our sign-in screen and say, let's first of all define a function for onSignInPressed. We're going to implement the logic in the next video, so stay tuned by the end of the video to know what's going to happen next. But right now, let's just console warn sign in to make sure that everything works. So first of all, the text of this button is going to be sign in, and the onPress event is going to be the function that we define here. Now we see the text on the button sign in. If we press on it, we see the console warn that we define here. So that means that our button works as expected. All right, let's have a look at what are the next steps. So the next steps are the forgot password, which is also a button, but a different type of button with different styles, and the sign in with Facebook and sign in with Google. So for the forgot password, let's have a look. So I'm gonna copy the custom button here, and I'm gonna say that the text should be forgot password. The onPress, let's do on forgot password pressed. Let's define the function here. And again, we're gonna just console log this name. So now we have two buttons. Pressing on sign in, we see sign in. Pressing on forgot password, we see on forgot password pressed. Perfect, but the styles of this button should be different. So usually when we have customizable buttons, we have three types of buttons. Primary, which usually is with solid background. We have secondary, which is with a transparent background, but with solid borders of this color. And we have tertiary, is it right how I pronounce it? Let's see. Tertiary, okay. So besides primary, secondary, we also have tertiary buttons, which usually looks like links. So for that reason, for our custom button, let's pass here a type, which is going to be tertiary. And with this type property, we can go back to our custom button, receive it here as type, and think about how to conditionally style our buttons depending on our type. So we're gonna have the styles for our container here, and for the container we're gonna keep only the styles that are the same for all the types of containers, and then we're gonna extract individual styles for different types of buttons in separate styles. For example, container underscore and let's say primary, and our primary button is gonna have the background color here blue. So let's take it from container because this background color is only for our primary button. And also let's define a container tertiary, which does not have a background color, but if we will need any custom styles for our tertiary button, we're gonna add them here. Let's do the same for our text. Text will be the general style, then we have text tertiary, and the color of the text in a tertiary button, if we have a look here, should be kind of a gray color. So the color is gray. Okay, so for the styles here, let's also assign the container style, which are default styles, but let's add one extra style that is gonna be coming from the styles object, and we're gonna access the necessary styles based on the type using this notation. So styles, it should be container because we wrote it like container underscore, and after that is going to be the type of the button. So if the type is primary, it's going to be container underscore primary. If it's tertiary, container underscore tertiary. And the same thing we're going to do for our text here. Styles at text underscore type. Save. So as we see, for the forgot password, it works as expected. Everything works there perfectly, but we lost some styles for our primary button because from here we are not sending here a type primary, and either can send here type primary, or better we can assign a default value of primary. Whenever the button will receive undefined type, it's gonna fall back to primary. So as you can see here, if we don't pass anything, it's gonna be back to primary. Okay, so for the forgot password tertiary button, we are done. The next steps, the next buttons here are the social sign-in buttons. So let's define them here. Let's copy the custom button here, and we're gonna have 3 of them because we have sign in with Facebook, with Google, and I also want with Apple, because if you intend to deploy your application on market, you need to implement sign in with Apple. So on Apple Store Market, sign in with Facebook, on sign in Facebook, sign in with Google, on sign in Google, and sign in Apple with Apple. All right, let's now define these functions on the top. Const and the same for the other 3 functions. Okay, so now we see 3 buttons: sign in with Facebook, sign in with Google, and sign in with Apple. Now regarding styles. Here, these buttons are not primary, are not secondary, and are not tertiary at all. They are very custom buttons. So what is custom here is definitely the background color and the text color. So let's adjust now our button component in order to be able to adjust the background color and the foreground color from outside. So to do that, let's add one more styles to this style array for our container. So the last style is gonna be, let's see if background color is specified. We're gonna assign a style with background color BG color. Otherwise, we're gonna assign an empty style object here. And this background color will override any background color that is coming from the container or for the container primary and so on. So if there is a background color, it's gonna take priority. Let's do the same for this style, for the text. Here as well, if foreground color exists, we're gonna set the color of our text as foreground color, otherwise empty object. All right, so let's go back to our sign-in screen. And here we're gonna specify the foreground color and background color of all these buttons. All right, guys, so here are all the colors. You can stop the video and copy the colors that I have found here. And with them, this is how our screen looks at the moment. We have different buttons, passwords, inputs, everything that we needed there. And if we look at the designs, the last thing is here at the bottom, a tertiary button, which will say don't have an account, create one. So we can do that by copying our forgot password tertiary button. Let's paste it here. Don't have an account, create one. On sign up pressed. This will redirect the user to the sign up screen. And if we look here, we see the button here at the bottom of the screen, and everything now is ready for this screen. Before going to the next screen, I want to show one issue that there might be with such screens. So for example, on this device, everything looks good and everything fits on the screen. However, if the application will be open on a device with a much smaller screen size, then you might lose some of the buttons that you have here at the bottom. So the user might not be able to click them, which is a very huge problem when the user is not able to click some buttons. To do that, I'm gonna simulate this by increasing the margin vertical of our buttons. So if I put 25 here, just for the sake of this example, we lose the ability to sign in with Apple and to navigate to the sign up screen because we cannot reach it. So for that situations, we need to wrap our whole page in a scrollable view to be able to scroll down to see everything that is on this screen. So to do that, let's import scroll view from React Native and let's wrap our whole page here, the whole view, in a scroll view. Let's copy the ending and go to the end here, and after the view is closed, we will close the scroll view. Yeah, everything is okay. So now we are able to scroll down if the content on the screen is longer than the screen height. So by doing this, we make sure that all the buttons are accessible on any device screen. So going back to our custom button, I can move the margin vertical to 5. And everything works as expected. You can also, if you don't like the scroll bar here on the right, you can disable it by passing a show vertical scroll indicator false. If you do that, you are not going to see the scroll indicator on the right. Alright, so we have finished with this screen, the sign in screen, and next we're going to start working on the sign up screen, which is quite similar, but it has multiple inputs. Alright guys, so that was it for today. In this video we have finished the sign-in screen from our authentication workflow, and we have implemented here a lot of custom things like custom inputs, custom buttons, and so on. Follow the next video where we're gonna continue this tutorial with the rest of the screens from the authentication flows, which are very important for any application, like a sign up screen where you will be able to create an account, and we're gonna reuse the same components that we created during this video in order to create this form. Also, in the next video, we're gonna cover the forgot password flow, where you'll be able to input your username, and after you press send, you will be redirected to a new page where you will be able to reset your password. Also, in the next video, we're gonna integrate navigation to put all these screens together in order to navigate from one another. As you saw here in this demo, like don't have an account, we navigate to a sign up page, have an account, we navigate back, and so on. So make sure to follow the next tutorial to learn how to implement all of the remaining screens in our authentication flow. If you enjoyed this video guys, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell not to miss the future videos that are coming on this channel. And as always guys, take care, stay hydrated, and write clean code. See you soon.